Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the today's video, we are going to continue our last tutorial series, and into the last video, as you can see, we have just completed the designing of registration form and the login form here, login and registration, and as well as home designing of the home page also we have created into the last tutorial. Now into this tutorial, I am going to tell you about a back-end logic behind the registration form. This is the registration form you can see in front of you, and user can be registered to our system by making use of that registration form and then log into that system. So quickly go to the Eclipse ID. Here you can see that this is the form that which we have created, and this was the project daily note app 2. You can see that this is the project, and into that you can see we have created the connection to our database by making use of the helper package. Into the helper package we have created the connection provider.java file, and into that we have connected our application to the database. Now we require is entity, that is we are going to create a user entity which we require to register our user. So let me create a new class which is named as user. So into that class I am going to provide the fields, or I am going to provide the fields which we require to for the registration of the user. So here you can see that I am going to declare the one user ID, private integer user ID. Another one is private string username and user email, and similarly for the user email, and the password which we are going to accept from the user. So private string password that I have accepted from the user. Okay, so now I require the constructor. So let me create the constructor here. Just right click on your project, right click on that file, click on source, and click on generate constructor from the super class. By default constructor here I am going to create, and another constructor I require is for that purpose let me right click on it and go to the source and generate constructor from using the fields. Okay, let me go that generate constructor using fields, and just select all that fields, and I am going to just click on enter, and here you can see that I am going to created the constructor. Again another constructor we require is without user id, that is in that we don't require the user id. So again same process, just untick that user id and click on create or click enter. You can see the constructor is going to be created. Now we also require the getters and setters also for our this private fields. As you can see, as that fields are the private, that for that purpose to use that into the throughout our project we have to declare the getters and setters. So let me declare the getters and setters. As you can see, let me to create the getters and setters for our field. Just right click on your file, go to the source and select the generate getters and setters, and select all that fields, select all and click on generate. Here you can see that, and here you can see that our user entity is going to be created successfully. The getters and setters and constructors we have created, and you can see the variables which we require for the user registration, that also we have created. So now thing is that I have to create the database using that field, that is as of this field, that is user id, username, email, and the password. So let me quickly go to the MySQL, you can see, and let me create that. So here you can see that so yes, these are the getters and setters which we have just created. And here you can see that let me search for localhost php myadmin, and into that I am going to navigate to our database, MySQL database interface. So just go to that, and here you can see that we have created the note app named database. Here you can see this is the note app named database. Just open that database here, and here we haven't created any table yet. So let me create the table named as a users, and which is having the 5 fields or let's choose the number of columns 4 here, and user id, and first field is, you can see, which is the user id, and which is the integer of type, and which is the primary key of our table itself, and just go click on go, and which is automatically incremented. Here you can see that you have to just check that auto increment checkbox for that purpose. So let me create another field, that is username, and user email and user password also. Let give it as varchar 100, and again user email, another field is user email, and next field is a password. So let me quickly create that password. Okay, so now let me click on save button, and our table is going to be created in front of us. So here you can see that the users table is going to be created in front of us here. Now I am here with the, here you can see that I am here to our project. Let me close it all, and let me go to our registration page. Here you can see that this is the form, this is the registration form which we have created here. Okay, so now I have to write the action attribute and the method attribute to our form tag. So let me write the action attribute to register our user into the database, and method is going to be, form method is going to be post, because of this value we don't need to be, you can see, appears into the query string. When we use get, it appears into the query string, and it is not a secure method. So for that purpose I have used the you can see method equal to post. And now let me create the into the user entity. As you can see, this was the field which we want to create, and let me create a method, let me create one method such that that method is going to be insert our data into the database. Let me create the user DAO class, and into the user DAO class you can see I am going to create a method such that that method is going to be accept a user object, and that object is going to be stored into the database. So let me, here you can see that into the user DAO class, first of all let me create the connection variable, connection con equal to, let me declare only connection variable, and let me create the constructor using that field. So by make use of that connection, and here you can see that I have created the constructor using that field, and now I am going to create method to insert the user into the database. So for that purpose let me write as public void save user method I am going to create, and that save user method is going to be argument of user object, that is users object that we have just created, user entity object. Let me import that users daily notes dot entity users user. That object is going to be accepted by that method, and it going to be store it into the database. So let me add the try catch block here, because the exception should be caught, runtime exception should be caught here, can be caught here. So for that purpose let me print stack trace of that also. So now I am going to create one method such that one, sorry not one method, I am going to create a one query such that which insert into users, and into the users I have to insert the username. You can see username, user email and password that I am going to save. So let me write that username, user email and user password, or password only, as of we declare into the our database column. And values, for the values, I am going to specify the placeholders, which is the question mark, and that placeholders are going to be replaced with the actual values, as you can see. Now let me create the object of prepare statement. Let me prepare the statement for our query. Prepare statement psmt equal to connection dot prepare statement for our in query, above query. So now here I am going to replace our values, placeholders to our actual values. So psmt dot set string, and into the first you can see first placeholder will be the user dot get name, that is username, which I got from the user object which we are going to create into the servlet. So next, similarly I am going to create it for the user email also, user dot get email, and next one is for the password. So for the password also I am going to set string, and it at the it is the three number placeholder number you have to place here, and the value of it will be user dot get password. For, as you can see, we have created the getters and setters for this purpose only, so to get the values of that fields. So now I am going to execute that statement, update that statement. Let me write a psmt dot execute update, and that execute update is going to be return us as a confirmation that the data is going to be inserted into the database successfully. That is the confirmation. Okay, so let me create a logic like that. Let me create a one boolean variable, or let me change the return type of our method as you can see, return type of method as boolean, that is public boolean save user, and that method is going to be return the value of boolean value of the flag variable. Here I am going to create a flag variable, and initially it is a false. Yes, initially it is a false, and that is going to be returned by this method. So let me write here something like return that flag variable, boolean variable, and after you can say that after inserting the data, that is after execute update, that flag variable is going to be true, and which is the confirmation that the data is going to be inserted into the database. So it is the confirmation for inserted data inserted. Okay, and that flag is going to be returned by this method, which is the boolean method, as you can see. So now I have to create a servlet. Just right click on your servlet package, click on new, and click on new class, and here I am going to write the class name as add user servlet, or let me name it as register servlet, as it is a user registration. So you can give any name to the class, as you can see, which you can just rectify. Okay, now here you can see that I am going to extend that servlet by http servlet, and into that servlet there is one method such that public void do post method we are going to create, because we have sending the post data from the HTML form, and that method is going to be take the argument of HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. Oh, and let me create the print writer out object, because we have to print our data into the HTML page. For that purpose I am going to create the object of that print writer class. So okay, and here again I have to write the response dot set content type, that is into the response of the servlet the content type of that text is, which is the HTML text which is going to be in response from the servlet. So that's why I am going to writing like here. So go to the login.jsp page again, and here you can see that into the registration form itself that we have created, here we have to add action equal to register, that is action of this form is going to be into the register servlet. And also into the input field I have to specify the name to that input field, name attribute to the input field, which I have given a name equal to text name for the name, and similarly I am going to give it for the email as txt email, and in the same way I am going to give the name attribute to the password also. So that name attribute it is the parameter name which we are going to accept into the servlet, and it is very important to do that. Here you can see that adding the name attribute to the input field. Now come to the register servlet here, and here I am going to create a name variable, and here I am going to accept that parameter by making use of the request.get parameter method. And as you can see the name of that parameter, as I have shown you, as we have just name it as, which is the txt name, which is the name of the input field into the HTML form. So into the similar way I am going to just accept it for the email ID and the password also. Created the email ID variable and created the password variable, and into the request.get parameter method I am going to accept the email ID and password also. So now whether they are going to be accepted or not, to confirm that let me print that into the HTML page. So for that purpose I am make use of the out.println, which is the variable which we have created, out.println and name. Similarly for our three fields, email and password also. And here you can see that in this way we have created our register servlet, but we haven't registered our servlet to the web.xml deployment descriptor, which is very important to register to, which is important to deploy the servlet. So here you can see that let me run it first, and let's see what is the output of it. Let me see. Let's wait for some time and let me see. And here you can see that it is going to be, our project is going to be run. Click on login and register, and here I am going to write something into that field, that form, that is the name, email and the password I am going to write. And here you can see that when I click on register button, it says an error. Actually this is not an error, as you can see. We have to register our servlet to the web.xml deployment descriptor, as I said, and which is very important to deploy our servlet. So go to the web inf, into the web inf directory there is a file which is named as web.xml, which is the deployment descriptor and which is very important to deploy our servlet. So here into that file, there in between the servlet and servlet mapping tag, we are going to register our servlet to deploy that file. So into the servlet tag and into the servlet mapping tag. So and here you can see the into the servlet tag you have to specify the servlet name. That servlet name you can give any servlet name which you can just remember. And second one is servlet class. Into that you have to specify the fully classified name of your class in which you have extended your servlet. And into the servlet mapping, again you have to write the servlet name and URL pattern. That you can see that URL pattern is that pattern which you have specified into the form tag into the action attribute. Into the action attribute, as we have written as register. So now here you can see that servlet name I have specified, which is register servlet. And servlet class, the servlet class is that class, as you can see, which is the register servlet.java, that file we have created. So let me go to this. Just I am going to copy all the fully classified name, that is package.com.dailynode app.servlet.register servlet, which is the servlet class in which we have extended our servlet. And into the URL pattern, we have to specify the slash register. And because as we have written into the login.jsp page, into the form of action attribute, into the action attribute we have specified the register here. So whatever we have specified into the form attribute, we have to just add in the forward slash and just write like URL pattern slash that register. So now we have successfully registered our servlet into the deployment descriptor. Now when I going to run our application, let me run it, restart the server. Yes, whenever you are going to change into your code, you have to restart the server. So and it says that it should be restarted. So my server is going to be restarted, as you can see, Tomcat server. And let me see the output. As you can see, I am going to navigate to the home page. Let me click on that login, and here I am going to write something into that form. Let me write the name, let me write the email ID, and let me write the password also. So okay, now when I click on that register button, as you can see in front of you, the whatever the data I got, which is going to be printed into the web browser. That as you can see, because we have just written it as you can see out.println. We have, by make use of that parameter, I have printed it on the web page. Okay, so here the just parameter name I have just written wrong. So let me again let me run this. The password was not printed, so let me quickly do that. Let me write the email ID and again password also. So let me click on that register button, and here you can see that all the data is going to be printed in front of you into the browser. And that data, as you can see, this data is going to be come from the HTML page into the servlet. And by make use of user.dow method, save user method, we are going to pass that data to the database. So how to do that, let me tell you. So here you can see that here I am going to send this data to the database, but before that I have to set this data to user object. So let me create the object of the user entity which we have created. Okay, so here I am going to create the user entity, so object of the user entity, users u equal to new users, and by make use of the constructor which we have created, as you can see, I am going to set the values to that user object. So now whatever the value I got from that HTML page to the servlet, that I have set to the user object, and that user object is going to be passed to the save user method of the user DAO class, and that is going to be go into the save into the database. So user DAO, let me create a object of that user DAO, new user DAO, and which accept the connection which we are going to give from the connection provider class which we have created into the helper package, connection provider dot get connection method, and the connection is going to be passed to the user DAO object. Now I am ready to call the method save user method of the user DAO class, user DAO udao dot save user. Let me user DAO dot save user, call to that method as save user method, and the object is which we have just created and to which we have set all the values that I am going to pass to that method. So okay, pass object to the DAO method to save the data into the database, and into the user DAO we have created the code to save into the save values into the database. So to our confirmation, let me write out.println user registered successfully. Okay, so now let me run this our complete project again. Right click on our project, click on run as. Let's wait. Run on the server. Now let's wait for some time and it will be run into the browser. So let me wait, and here you can see that. Okay, so now click on login register, or let me add some data into it. That is, suppose my name is going to be added, my email ID also I am going to add here, and password is also I am going to add here. So now whatever this data I am entering is going to be saved into the database. Okay, now when I click on register button, as you can see the message says that user registered successfully. It means that our user is going to be successfully registered into the database. As you can see, into the database our data is going to be inserted successfully. So let me see our database, let me show you whether it's going to be inserted or not. Let me go to my localhost php myadmin. As you can see, into the users table, this is the users table, and let me click on that, and here you can see that in front of you whatever the data I have added into that HTML form is going to be added into that database. So in this way we have successfully created our user registration module. So now let me meet into the next video, and into the next video we will be going to create the complete login module. So still there, do subscribe to Code with Wiki YouTube channel. Thank you.